Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's the Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
International Podcast Day is September 30th, and you can help spread the word. You may be asking, what can I do to get involved? It's pretty simple. Head over to internationalpodcastday.com and check the suggestions. Then use hashtag International Podcast Day to join the conversation. You can reach out and connect with other podcasters, listeners, and your favorite podcast hosts. Remember September 30th, International Podcast Day, a day-long celebration of the power of podcasts.
Welcome to this very special episode of the Entrepreneurial You. I am your host, Heneka Watkis-Porter. Now, this episode is in celebration of International Podcast Day, which is being celebrated around the world. And so the Entrepreneurial You had to be in on the fun. I'm going to be just sharing a little about the day, what it means, as well as my own personal podcasting journey. But before I get into that, I want to just say how saddened I am, how heartbroken I am, seeing the damage, witnessing the damage that Hurricanes Irma and Maria have collectively done. It is mind-boggling, to say the least. It is really sad to see how these two hurricanes have pretty much demolished so many territories and have caused severe damages to others. We're talking about Cuba, Florida, Dominica, Puerto Rico, Cape Verde, Bahamas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Haiti, Guadeloupe, St. Martin, St. Barts. No, this is terrible. We've not seen anything like this. And so, as a podcast host, I am actually sending out an appeal, asking persons to make a contribution in any way possible. Many of these people in these territories are suffering severely. Millions of people are being displaced. There is just so much devastation that has taken place, and it is going to take years for recovery in a lot of these instances. And so I have done my part in collaboration with Elevate JA, a nonprofit organization operating outside of Jamaica, started a crowdfunding campaign called Irma Relief, because it was set up during the passage of Irma, or after the passage of Irma. Irma Relief Help Our Caribbean Neighbors. So when you go to isupportjamaica.com, look for that campaign, Irma Relief Help Our Caribbean Neighbors. And this is to donate, to make a contribution, a monetary contribution, in return for some perks that we giving you, a monetary donation, so that we can send these funds collected. In particular, we were looking at sending it to St. Martin and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so the reason why we selected these territories, the President, Omar Ewing, and I'm the Vice President, we have connections to, in Omar's instance, to St. Martin and the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. I am totally connected to St. Martin. My mom and family members live there. It is really my second home. It's where I go, where I want to just experience a difference and even, rejuvenate and refresh. So I'm personally connected, and I'm deeply, deeply saddened to see the devastation that has been caused by Hurricane Maria. So do what you can to support. Do what you can to support. Now, back to International Podcast Day. Today, September 30, is celebrated around the world as International Podcast Day. It is where podcasters are coming together. We are hosting meetups. There are sessions held, live streaming around the world, beginning from September. Well, it began yesterday, actually, September 29 at 4 p.m. PDT, where there a lot of activities are being streamed. We're being streamed, and into today, where different events are happening around the world. There are some sponsors on board. So you can get more information from internationalpodcastday.com. But in Jamaica, we are not to be left out of what is happening, right? They say in Jamaica, if it's egg, we have to be in the red. And so we are not to be left out from what is happening. Ingrid Riley, who is a tech trailblazer in the Caribbean, of course, she's based in Jamaica, and myself, we are hosting in collaboration with our local Jamaican podcasters. I'll give you the names in a few. But we are hosting a Jamaican meetup at Bookophilia, 92 Hope Road. And of course, Bookophilia is one of the sponsors of this podcast. It's a lovely, cozy spot that you can go to just be creative. You're in a creative environment. You read books. You're allowed to think. There is music going on, live music at times, poetry at times, different artistic expressions happen there. And so we saw it fit to have our meetup there. So in collaboration with Dr. Anissa Holmes, her podcast is Delivering Wow. And it's a great podcast. If you haven't yet checked it out, in fact, we encourage you on this day to try some new podcasts. Listen to other podcasters, expand your mind. Don't just stick to one. Yes, you may have your favorite, and that's okay. But don't just stick to one podcast. You want to expand your learning. You want to grow. You want to develop. You want to experience different, podcasts. Just as you wouldn't just sit and watch one television show, or you sit and listen to one radio show. Don't just, consume one podcast. Explore others. There's so many podcasts, and depending on the genre that you're interested in, there's something for everybody. So in addition to also myself and Ingrid Riley of Silicon Carib, we have, as I said, Dr. Anissa Holmes. There is Unique Grant of Navigating the Customer Experience, the Customer Service Experience. That's her podcast, and she's also joining us. There is Paul A. Stennett. He is a New Bay podcaster, just launched his podcast a couple weeks ago, and his podcast is The Transformation Blueprint. I actually have been on that show. It's an amazing show, and it's a podcast to watch. And Melissa Powell of Invest Human. She has other co-hosts on her podcast. So all us podcasters will be meeting and having a great time at 2 p.m. today, 2 p.m. EDT, right at 92 Hope Road, Bookophilia. All are invited. If you don't know you probably wouldn't be listening to this if you don't know what a podcast is. But if you're just new to it and just feeling it out, feel free to come and get more information, more insights into what it is all about, and become a member of the community. It's rather an exciting community, and I'm happy to be part of what is happening. So let me just share a little of my own journey as a podcaster. So in 2014, I started my radio show on Power 106 FM in Jamaica called The Entrepreneurial You. Now, I garnered sponsors and stuff, but in order for me to get it on the air, I always needed to have sponsors, always needed to be soliciting sponsors. And it was really hard. Yes, eventually I landed sponsorship, but it was always a challenge, the following up and the going after them and the keeping at it. And, and they're saying it's too expensive and all of that. Yes, I did land some really great sponsors and I'm grateful to them, but there was a lot more effort and a lot of work being put into rather than creating and maintaining the value of the product. Also had to be spending time in going after sponsorship. So I remember going to an event, and Ingrid Riley, as I mentioned earlier, she is a tech trailblazer in the Caribbean. And so I had a conversation with her, and having this conversation with her, she gave me her number and said we should talk after the event. And I gave her a call because my concern at the time was how do I get more sponsors, because she seemed to be able to land sponsors for her many events that she keeps. So like, what's the strategy for landing these great sponsors? And having that, that conversation, she initially talks about going online and develop your following. And once you've done that, then it's easier to go offline and to land sponsors and stuff. So, and that's how the conversation started. And even at that same conference I'm mentioning, I also met Demar Hutchinson, who we connected as well. And he subsequently suggested, like Ingrid did, a podcast. Ingrid at the time recommended John Lee Dumas' EO Fire. John Lee Dumas' EO Fire. And I listened. And as I listened, oh my gosh, for the very first time, I became hooked instantly. And so that's how my journey started. Eventually I reached out to JLD, and he was so open and supportive. I was even blown away by that. And I thought, oh my gosh, this podcasting community is really a great community. Persons who are in the community are awesome, and they're people person, so I wanted to be a part of that. And I began doing my research. I took a podcasting course from JLD, started doing my research and everything, and getting my equipment. And so by March of this year, the end of March of this year, I launched. And the truth be told, I could have launched a lot sooner, because I started the whole researching process in 2016. I think it was the middle of 2016. And I could have really launched a bit sooner, but I was really taking my time to learn about the industry, to learn about the technical aspects of stuff. And I believe one of the things that really kept me from going all in initially, or sooner, was that I was fearful of the technology, because truth be told, I'm not really tech savvy. I am becoming more tech savvy, and I certainly have become a lot more tech savvy these days. But I'm not naturally a tech person, right? Or I don't see myself as a tech person. And so I was daunted that even using the software Audacity and editing and stuff, it's going to be so challenging. No. Once I started, I was blown away by how simple everything just came together. And so since March of this year, I've already been in over 70 countries, getting feedback, podcasting every day, not podcasting every day. Sorry, that's not true. Every week, because this is a weekly show. And so every single week, I interview global high impact entrepreneurs who can provide inspiration and motivation for my community, you people, you, my awesome community members, community of peak performers. And that for me is so priceless. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity, really grateful for what has happened thus far. Well, I have a special edition coming up, so you should stay tuned for that. It includes Amy Porterfield, Chris Ducker, Michael O'Neill, Malcolm Harris, who am I leaving out? Kirk Anthony Hamilton, Amy Porterfield, and yeah, I think that's it. I think about 6 or 7 entrepreneurs that are on that special edition that's coming in Global Entrepreneurship Week. I've had on the show John Lee Dumas himself, which is has been a great fan of mine, and I've been a great fan of his, of course, from day one. He's the one who I attribute my success thus far to. I'm eternally grateful. And when I look at the feedback that I get, and hear the comments on the show notes page, and see the ratings and reviews I get in iTunes, I'm really heartened by what I have been able to create. And so, having done the Entrepreneurial You, coming out of that is the Entrepreneurial You Virtual SME Conference and Expo, which ended September 25, 28 rather. It ran from September 25 to September 28th. And that is like an amalgamation of most of the entrepreneurs that I've had on the show to date, bring them back for this 4-day virtual conference. Now that is amazing. We're talking about speakers. We had 18 amazing speakers, 2 of which were from our sponsors. 2 of our sponsors, Jamaica Business Development Corporation, Yellow. We also had sponsors JBDC and my own brand, Patwa Apparel. But bringing all these 18 amazing speakers from around the world, bringing them onto the platform to motivate and inspire our attendees. And I also did some live sessions outside of the platform. I was live on 5 platforms during the conference. I was live on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as well as the virtual platform that the conference was hosted on. So that is, I believe, is amazing. So continue to just quickly tell you who the speakers were, because that's not really the focus of the show, but just to give you an idea of who the speakers were. So we had, of course, John Lee Dumas. We had Malcolm M.J. Harris, Dr. Vanette A. Joseph. Dr. Vanette, like, he was so, like, all the speakers were super supportive. But Dr. Joseph, he was just there behind the scenes doing all the support. Dr. Sandy Eleveth as well, Kelly Cooper, Andrew McCauley, Lisa Ryan, J.V. Crumb III, Alicia Little, Stephen Hart, Lisa Rothstein, Chris Miles, Gilad Salamander, Lear Degani, Terry Wildman, Jack H.M. Wong, and of course, 2 other speakers came from our sponsor companies, Melissa Bennett from JBDC and Rashid Gervon of Yellow. And so this all came together, and this is what I'm talking about, the power of podcasting. I was able to pull all these people, these Oprah featured, CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, Huffington Post, Forbes, multi-award winning, multi-millionaires in US dollars, have all these people on my show, on my platform, sharing with my community. That is as a result of my podcast, The Entrepreneurial You. I was able to connect all these people together. And now I'm making connections. I had people on the platform from Nigeria, the US, Jamaica, so now all over, Singapore. And now I have all these amazing contacts, people that's part of my network, persons who I can reach out to, and they can help me to build what I'm building. I can help them to build what they're building, because that's, it's a reciprocal relationship that we have formed. And podcast, I attribute this to having a podcast. Had I not had a podcast, I wouldn't be able to have any, unless I create something else, have anything to leverage for them to come on and support what I'm doing, to be partners and to collaborate with me. So you can see the power of podcasting right here. And I won't get much more into talking about, my journey and podcasting and so on. Just to say to you, as I did before, that try and find something, a new podcast to listen to, subscribe. If you have a favorite podcaster, go out and reach out to that person and tell them thanks. Thanks for sharing their time with you. Thanks for sharing their expertise, because it does take time. It does take work to put a podcast together, but we do it for the love. We don't do it for the likes. Chronics. If you know the song by Chronics, you know where I'm going. We do it for the love, not for the likes. Of course, we want to know that when we're sending out our content, that we're also getting the likes, right? Because it's an indication, affirming what it is that we're doing and that we're reaching and we're making impact. So yes, as I close, or I'm about to wrap up, just to encourage you to continue to invest in your own development, explore new ways of learning, explore new way of doing things. One of the things I want to share with you is that I now have a podcast course that I'm setting up. Reach out to me at heneka@Watkis-Porter@gmail.com. Indicate your interest, and I'll send you the details so that you can get a 25% off. And also, for the sessions, the TEY, the Entrepreneurial You Virtual SME Conference and Expo, there was a lineup of presentations. And so I want to bundle those and offer them to you discounted 30%. So when you send me an email, heneka@Watkis-Porter@gmail.com, I'll also send you the details of that. So send me an email indicating your interest. And when you sign up, when you come on the website, heneka@Watkis-Porter.com, you have an opportunity to download my free ebook that I just put out. Free. So go to heneka@Watkis-Porter.com and sign up, and you get that ebook free. You don't have to pay anything for that. And that ebook is your quick start guide to launching your fashion business, your complete quick start guide to launching your fashion business. So just finished that, and I, as the founder of Patois Apparel, I have some experience, 10 years now in the business. So I wanted to put that forward, to pay it forward, and to share that information with you. So if you're interested in starting a fashion business, you can go to heneka.watkis-porter.com and enter your information, and the ebook is yours at no cost to you. So that's my way of saying thank you. So just stay tuned to this platform for more information. I love your support. I love your company. Love that you've always been supporting me. So continue to share, engage, comment. That is how I know that I'm making impact. And remember, Jamaica Meetup International Podcast Day at Bookophilia, 92 Hope Road, Kingston. See you there. Until next time, I am Heneka Watkis-Porter. And that's it for this very special edition of the Entrepreneurial You, celebrating and observing International Podcast Day. Thank you so much for listening from all over the world. I truly appreciate your support. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you. And if you've been enjoying this podcast, please show me some love in iTunes by subscribing, rating, and reviewing. Also, download the episodes. Leave a comment on the show notes page on henekawatkis-porter.com as well. Remember, also on my website, I have several resources that I've personally used and can attest to. So I invite you to check them out, as well as check out my sponsors and my partners. Until next time, remember, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. Walk good.